Hey everybody, Joseph Rothschild here, aka Mono Bluetron, back with another episode of 10-Minute Testing. So I hope you all had a nice holiday season. I hope you all enjoyed your week-long reprieve from the channel, but now it's time for both of us to get back to what we do best. For me, that's making bad videos about bad archetypes, and for you, that's giving me 15 cents a month in Google AdSense money. Today we're looking at Prediction Princesses, a deck that I refuse to give up on, and PALS, a couple of spicy tech cards that I believe might just push this deck into playability. So let's jump into deck edit and I'll show you what I'm playing. So I'm calling this deck Prediction Princesses and PALS. Now, that's partially because I think that calling it Prediction Princess Subterrors or Prediction Princess Pot of Taboos doesn't really do the list justice, but obviously it's so I can put PPAP in the text of this video's description and get 100,000 views from misguided folks looking for dead memes on YouTube. Before I give you the in-depth card-by-card breakdown that I always do in these videos, I want to talk to you about what Prediction Princesses are, what this deck is trying to do, and why I think it's poised for a good position in an upcoming metagame. So firstly, for those of you who don't know, Prediction Princesses are an archetype of flip effect monsters that all aim to get out this really powerful boss card, Prediction Princess Tarot Tie, which has two really good effects. First, on either player's turn, it can either flip up a face-up attack position monster to face-down defense position, or flip up a face-down defense position monster to face-up attack position, and during your own end phase, she can special summon a flip effect monster from your hand or graveyard. Now, this card is obviously intensely powerful, but unfortunately, every piece of support released for it, every other Prediction Princess monster, has been terrible. They're slow, they're flip effect monsters, they have a low amount of stars, so they're awful for ritual summoning. Sure, they advance your game plan, but it is at a glacial pace that relies on your opponent attacking into them like an idiot. Because of this, Prediction Princesses have really never taken off, and while a couple of people tried to make something happen right around her release with the batch of Subterrors that came out in the first wave, those cards were so wholly unremarkable that it really never went anywhere. However, with the release of Subterror Behemoth Ultramaphus alongside a couple of interesting tech choices and an ever-changing metagame, I think this deck might be going somewhere. The aim of the deck is to send a copy of Subterror Behemoth Ultramaphus or Pot of Taboos to the graveyard in order to pay for Prediction Princess Tarot Tie's cost, then special summon it back during your end phase and flip it face up whenever it is the most convenient to you. That is the bread and butter combo, although the remainder of the deck includes really spicy cards that aim to make that combo either more powerful, extend your existing plays, or play backup in a way that the previous deck never could. I think it has the potential to be good in an upcoming format because the deck that is poised to take over the metagame, Zodiacs, is actually not particularly strong against instant speed Regekis. Previously, things like Volcanics have been just destroyed off the face of the earth because decks float into the burning abyss. But now that those decks seem to be on their way out and will be shafted in favor of the wildly consistent Zodiac deck, maybe it's time for them to make a comeback. So here are the cards we're playing. We've got 3 copies of Prediction Princess Tarot Tie, the waifu herself, 3 copies of Subterror Behemoth Ultramaphus, a 12-star flip effect monster that, when it flips face up, basically Quaking Mirror forces the entire field, 1 copy of Subterror Nemesis Archer, just to give us a normal summonable monster that we can get off of the Hidden City, and enable the really unfortunate backup plan of having to actually play Subterrors. 3 copies of Pot of Taboos, the #1 card I like sending for Prediction Princess Tarot Tie's effect, a flip effect monster with the following effects: either draw 2 cards, return all spell and trap cards on the field to the hand, destroy all monsters your opponent controls, or look at your opponent's hand and shuffle a card from it into the deck. You'll recognize most of those cards from the Forbidden list, hence the name, Pot of Taboos. Get it? 3 copies of Manju with the 10,000 hands. We are a ritual deck, and we do run into consistency issues, so we have to play this guy. 2 copies of Spirit of the Tailwind. While we have actually a lot of ways to get Tarot Tie and her ritual spell, we don't have a lot to get the flip effect monsters into our hand. This essentially acts as our second Manju, but only for Pot of the Forbidden and Ultramaphus. 3 copies of Guard Dogs, searchable off of Spirit of the Tailwind, and a very interesting tech choice that I picked up at a nearby regional. This card is incredible. When it's flipped up, your opponent can't special summon for the rest of the turn. Obviously, this was made to prevent them from special summoning on your turn, since it was around at a time that you couldn't flip up flip effect monsters at instant speed, but flip this sucker up in your opponent's draw step, and you actually just win the game. 2 copies of Maxi, because we have to draw cards. 3 copies of Prediction Ritual, the ritual spell for Tarot Tie that allows itself to be banished in order to get Tarot Tie to your hand. 3 copies of Pre-Prep Preparation of Rites. Thank God we can play this card. 3 copies of Terraforming to get our 3 copies of the Hidden City. They allow us to add an Ultramaphis to our hand or a Nemesis Archer in a world where we just want to accrue a little bit more card advantage. It also has other text on it that allows you to negate attacks that is actually pretty good. 2 copies of this awful card, Pot of Desires, I've never heard of it. 2 copies of Twin Twister in order to prevent back row from destroying us. 1 Vanities, 2 Strikes, and a Warning. In the extra, we have a bunch of cards that I don't ever expect to go into, but there is a prominence placed on 3 stars because of Archer plus Guard Dog, 4 stars because of multiples of Manju, and like 8 and 9 and 12s in case we draw into multiple copies of Ultramaphis, Terratai, and Pot. So let's jump into the games and see how they play out. So our first matchup is up against Galaxy. This is a deck that's not particularly good, but can make Cyber Dragon Infinity, and for that reason I probably have to watch out for. We have a pretty alright opener that allows us to make Prediction Princess Terratai, but not do a whole lot else. Let's go ahead and go first. We're going to fire off as much as we can before we Pot of Desires, getting ourselves this pre-preparation of rights, this terraforming, so we can have the Hidden City and get fodder for our ritual spell, add this Ultramaphis to our hand, and Desires. Now, Desires is a very good card that has drawn us a pre-preparation of rights we can activate, and a second Desires. Then we're going to set this Twin Twister, activate Prediction Ritual, send Ultramaphis for Terratai herself, and then get back Ultramaphis during the end phase. Now, Ultramaphis, when he's flipped up, sends all face-up monsters back face down, which is pretty sweet. Our opponent is going to lead with an Accelolite. Go ahead and get a Galaxy Wizard. Tribute Galaxy Wizard in order to get a Galaxy Soldier. Summon a Galaxy Soldier. Add a Galaxy Soldier. And as he activates the other Galaxy Soldier effect, I'm like, the way this chain will resolve is I flip up Ultramaphis. Out comes the Galaxy Soldier. Then in a new chain, Ultramaphis' effect resolves. That means he won't have an option to be able to summon Cyber Dragon Infinity. So what do you know? He does just that. I flip everyone else face down, and he gets out Galaxy Eyes Photon Dragon by tribute summoning? Come on. Then he's going to go ahead and Galaxy Zero his way back to a Galaxy Soldier. I don't want that happening, so I'm going to go ahead and Twin Twister that card. He is going to attack into my Terratai and end his turn. So this isn't fantastic for me, but thankfully we do have the second pre-preparation of rights. We get to fire that off right now. Use another copy of Terratai for the cost for Terratai, and then summon herself. After that, we're going to be able to use Ultramaphis' effect to flip him face down, flip him back up to flip this card face down, and then attack into the 2500 defense, allowing us to get over him and put in some damage. During the end phase, I'm going to use Terratai's effect to flip back Ultramaphis so that we can use it on our opponent's turn. Now, our opponent goes, they go ahead and flip up Galaxy Zero. We don't have a Twin Twister this time, so they are going to go ahead and get this Photon Dragon. Not great for me, but once they summon Cyber Twin Raptor and then use Galaxy Expedition, I read the word face up and decide, oh, it would be really great if I made everything face down. So we're going to go ahead and flip up this Ultramaphis, flip everything face down once this card is resolved, and hope that that's enough. Now, our opponent now has 2 cards with 2500 defense face down and 1 with 800. We draw a Terraforming, which allows us to get a Hidden City, which allows us to get a Nemesis Archer, and we can attack into these 3 monsters, leaving him with absolutely no resources whatsoever. At this point, he decides he's done. So this game just really showcases the power of Guard Dog. We've opened pretty well. We have a copy of Pre-Preparation of Rights, a Guard Dog, a Manju. Our opponent is playing OEM, a deck that just refuses to die, and they're going to go first. Now, for those of you who play a lot of YGO Pro, this is a classic YGO Pro strategy. It's do nothing on your first turn and trick your opponent into thinking they selected first. So we draw ourselves a Terratai. That means we'll be able to pay for Terratai, although we would have been able to get something off Manju probably anyway. Let's go ahead and pre-prep into a Ritual and a Terratai, activate that, sending itself for cost, and then normal summon a Subterror Nemesis Archer. Now, we don't attack here because, once again, we've forgotten how Yu-Gi-Oh! Works. During the end phase, we're going to use Terratai's effect to summon the Guard Dog from our hand face down, and then during their draw phase, we're going to flip that sucker up and make sure they can't special summon. Now, effectively, that shuts down the entire deck. They're going to go ahead and summon Archfiend Eccentric. I figure that's the only thing that can really screw up a repeatable special summon from Terratai, so I'm going to go ahead and Solemn Warning that right now, and then they're going to end their turn. We don't exactly have lethal, but we're very close. Banishing Prediction Ritual gets us a copy of Terratai, and activating Manju means we can summon her for lethal, but wouldn't you know it, there's Effect Veiler. We're going to just go ahead and beat in for 10 billion points of damage right here. It's not exactly lethal. It would have been if I actually knew how to play play this stupid game. And then during the end phase, we're going to summon this pot of taboos that's in our hand, but not before flipping this guard dog down and making sure we can be just as mean as possible during our opponent's next turn. During their draw step, once again, we're going to flip up this guard dog, make sure they can't special summon. They go ahead and Pendulum call and then normal summon one of these 1800s in order to beat over this guard dog, thinking, of course, that they'll be safe if it's in the graveyard and not understanding that Archetype can special summon guys from the graveyard as well. Then they'll end their turn. Now, I don't really know what's face down. I figure it's got to be like some sort of Mirror Force or something if they haven't conceded. So I'm just going to go ahead and flip up this pot of taboos, return it to the hand, and go ahead and attack in for lethal. So this game illustrates what a brick looks like. Now, we have a copy of the ritual spell and a couple of ways to get monsters to pay for the cost, but we don't have Archetype herself, and we don't really have a very reliable way to get her into the grave. Like, maybe we can figure out a way to Twin Twister this ritual away and get her that way if we draw another copy of the ritual, but none of them sound very good. Our opponent is playing Metaphos Kozmo, which is a deck that actually seems kind of sweet when I think about it. Let's go ahead and start this sucker off. They're going to go ahead by setting 2 Stealerins, activating one of the Stealerins on the Kozmo Town. I assumed it was to get a copy of the only Tin Can, but unfortunately they decided just to get a copy of Farm Girl. Then they're going to go ahead and destroy each other for 2 copies of Combination. That's a problem for me, and I know this Twin Twister is going to have to come in real handy against these 2 copies of Counter. We have some shenanigans going on. I'm going to go ahead and terraform my way into a hidden city, which is going to get me a copy of the Subterror Nemesis Archer, just to thin my deck before I go ahead and play this Desires, and wouldn't you know it, we don't really draw anything, just another Desires and another hidden city. So we're going to set this Nemesis Archer. The idea is we can negate 1 attack, and the second attack should allow us to get a Subterror Ultra Maphis set. So they're going to go ahead, start off by normal summoning this copy of Kozmo Tin Can, attacking, I negated, of course, and he banishes for Kozmo Forerunner, which he will then forerun over me with. Unfortunately for me, 1 Maphis is in my hand, and here are the rest. So we don't actually get anything off of Nemesis Archer, which is fine. We do draw a copy of Manju the 10,000 Hands, which is about the best draw in our deck. We'll use that to get Archetype, special summon this Archetype, but not before BMing with this hidden city that gets nothing, and Twin Twistering away these 2 set cards. So now these counters are out of the way, we can fire off this Desires. We have 6 cards remaining in our deck, and of course, we draw another Desires. Why not? Let's go ahead and special summon 1 flip monster during our end phase. We're going to pick the only one we have, Ultra Maphis. At this point, we are so low on resources that I know this Ultra Maphis is about the best that any of the cards that I special summon with Archetype are going to get. So our opponent is going to go ahead and do their own shenanigans during the standby phase, gain a lot of life, add a bunch of cards from there, face up extra back to their hand, and then normal summon a copy of Kozmo Strawman. So I'm not feeling great right now. He goes to the battle phase and attacks my Archetype with Forerunner. I'm like, okay, that gets me to flip up Maphis. You're right, let's do it. I flip that sucker up, and we all go face down, and then in main phase 2, he's going to flip back up this Farm Girl for some reason and end his turn. I expect it's just to be able to banish for Forerunner. On my turn, I have a Solemn Notice, and I'm like, okay, so I have 2 Manjus in hand, which represents 1 Utopia of the Lightning, which negates 1 Kozmo effect, right? I have to be able to negate another one if he's going to banish for a second copy of Forerunner or something like that. So we're going to start off by making the only Utopia of the Lightning and beating over what I know is a Forerunner that is set right here. We're going to prevent him from using effects during the battle phase and then attack into his remaining cards. He flips into a Forerunner, and I go, shit, I actually have the stuff to get over this Forerunner, but I don't think I can do it. I would much prefer to Solemn Strike this sucker when he goes to the graveyard. So I'll ship this Maphis back down and end my turn. Our opponent is going to go ahead and draw a Dark Destroyer, use Forerunner's effect to gain life, and destroy it with a Metaphos. Now when he does that, this effect triggers, and I go, finally, my chance to Solemn Strike. I do that, and what do you know? That's the end of the game. So we're back with the deck. Obviously this isn't the final form of the deck, and it's going to require a little bit more tuning before it's battle ready, but I was actually pretty impressed with it. I felt like Subterror Behemoth Ultra Maphis really held his own, and he was a card I was really suspecting to be bad. He was certainly better than his other Subterror buddies. Games where I drew Guard Dog felt like they were completely over once he hit the table. I mean, stopping special summons in 2017 is pretty good. And while previously I had this weird problem where I wanted to normal summon the Spirit of the Tailwind and I wanted to normal summon the Manju of the 10,000 Hands, I don't really have that problem anymore because 3 copies of Terraforming and 3 copies of the Hidden City mean that I always have fodder for my ritual summon. I will say, however, the deck still does have a little bit of a consistency problem. Games where I could not make Terratai were certainly few and far between, but when they happened, they were almost instant losses. I really wish they had, like, a trade-in for 9-star monsters. If they did, I'd probably cut the existing Spirit of the Tailwinds for that. But all in all, I was pretty impressed, and I'd be interested to see where it goes in the future. So that's that. I hope you enjoyed the first episode of the new year. I hope you enjoyed watching me fumble around the same bad archetype for the third time, and most of all, I hope you just enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to give me a like, a comment, or subscribe. It really helps me out. And if you want to see me play the decks I make on this show on stream, I'm intermittently on twitch.tv/monobluetron. There's a link in the description. Finally, if you want to see me play a certain deck or archetype in a future video, let me know in the comment section below, and I will see what I can do. Otherwise, I will see you Thursday.